Class is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to our webinar. My name is Richard Martin. I'm the Chief Business Officer of Mergerware, and I will serve as your moderator today. First, let me say that we hope you and your families are staying well and safe. In these extremely challenging times, I'd like to share our heartfelt support and solidarity with you. At Mergerware, the health and safety of our colleagues, customers, partners, and the communities in which we operate is our number one priority. So please stay safe, and thank you for taking the time to join our webinar today. Creating greater value for companies and their customers is one of the main objectives of any merger and acquisition project. This can come from increasing the top-line revenue, entering new markets, and gaining market share, reaching a critical mass, acquiring and leveraging new technologies and new talent. The list goes on. Motivation aside, achieving post-merger revenue synergy is one of the most important goals companies have to create value from a deal. Nevertheless, despite their potential, a mere 20% of revenue synergy-centric acquisitions actually succeed, and there are several factors responsible for this limited success. The increased uncertainty of corporations to tackle revenue synergies in the first place, along with a lack of a disciplined approach. So how can teams do better? Today, we are very lucky to have Pune Puriste, international business development professional specializing in strategic projects, speaking with us. Pune has spent more than 14 years working in multicultural environments in different countries and was recently engaged as a Revenue Synergies business leader in the post-merger integration of a $4 billion business for a CAC 40 company, where she successfully delivered on their targets. Pune will share her experiences with us on how companies can achieve their 3-year goals. So Pune, welcome and thank you for being here.
Thanks, Richard. Actually, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody. Thanks for your attendance to this webinar, and thanks to Mergerware and Richard for the organization. I'm really glad to be here, and as Richard mentioned as well, I hope you are all good and safe, and your families as well.
Thanks. So let's set the stage. Well, before we set the stage, I want to make a couple notes. If you have any questions, you can use the chat panel or the QA panel to ask them. Throughout the discussion, we're going to have a couple polling questions where we'll look for you to give your opinion on a few key topics. As time permits, we will answer any questions that come, and the replay and slide up will be emailed to everyone within 48 hours of the presentation. Okay, so let's set the background. In a recent study by Deloitte, and you can see the link here, it's a great study, I recommend people read it. They noted that 38% of their respondents cited that revenue improvements and growth were the key strategies driving their M&A acquisition strategies. Okay. And in terms of their success in those strategies, effective integration was tied with valuation as a key success factor, and 58% of respondents noted a lack of sales and revenue synergies as a reason the deal was not successful. So I think it's pretty clear that effective integration and paying very close attention to revenue synergies is really critical. So let's get into the discussion. Pune, maybe you can start by talking a little bit about what we're going to cover today.
Sure. So what we try to do today actually is first to talk about the importance of revenue synergies in an acquisition process. We already talked about that many companies are looking for greater sales and revenues in their integration process. So we will put a little bit more accent on that and why it's very important. After that, we will bring you through some of the roadblocks preventing us to be successful in our efforts to deliver revenue synergies. And of course, we will end it by giving you some key success factors and some tools and tips to help you delivering revenue synergies in your actual and future acquisitions and integrations, of course.
Excellent. Okay, so before we get into the detail, let me just go to the audience and give them a quick polling question for you. So have your deals achieved their goals? And we'll give you a moment to log your vote. We'll just give a few more seconds, and then we'll close the vote, and we'll provide these details also along with the webinar replay. Okay. So let's go back to the presentation. Hunay, talk a little bit about why revenue synergies are so essential.
Actually, I think that you started to talk about that a little bit at the beginning in the introduction, just telling that when we are doing an acquisition, we are not doing that just for fun. We are always doing that to create a greater value for the companies. It can be to just have some additional revenues, to have access to the new market, maybe to reach the critical size for a specific business, or leveraging a technology or whatever. But at the end, what counts is to obtain sustainable growth for the companies. And of course, what we would like to do is to tell that, okay, we have now a bigger team, bigger portfolio of offers, and we can offer them to the customers, and we can create greater value for our customers and so for the companies. And of course, by obtaining new market share or entering new markets, or just being different and having more interaction with our customers and with our market. And of course, it's here that we can go and tell that we can demonstrate that 1 + 1 can be equal to 3. It's only by doing the merger and having a successful revenue synergies. We will come to it in the next slide.
Sure. So talk a little bit about the approach, if you will.
Sure. So when we are talking about the revenue synergies, we should be careful, and we should really keep in mind that we need to create some extra revenues, more than the merged companies can do together before. Actually, even can actually offer before. And what we can bring with the revenue synergies is more than what they could do if they were two separated companies. In many cases, unfortunately, we are misinterpreting the revenue synergies. And we think that as soon as two teams are together, as soon as we have a bigger portfolios, the salespeople, they go and they sell this new offer, and we can increase our value. The point is that if we don't have any specific action plan, tools and methods, and the way we can do it, and of course, without allocating special resources and some investment sometimes, what we do is that we will ask our salesperson to focus on revenue synergies, and they will be obliged actually to let the business as usual sometimes and go and trying to sell synergies. And here we are destroying some values for the companies, which is not the aim at all. So what you will see actually in this presentation is how we can change the way we were doing before in order to go and bring all the tools and methods and the best practices to generate these greater values for the merged companies.
Excellent. So I'd like to go back to the audience and give them an opportunity to talk a little bit about what their primary drivers are behind their M&A activity. So if you don't mind, I'll give you a moment to answer this poll question. I just want to give people who are having everyone vote, I'll give them another 10 seconds or so before we close. Okay. And I'm sharing some of the poll results so we can see that. So Penny, maybe talk a little bit about some details of what a revenue synergy is and what it should look like.
Sure, it's a good point actually, because we are talking about the revenue synergies, but if we don't have the same understanding and definition of the revenue synergies, at least during this webinar, it would be very difficult actually to go further. So the revenue synergy is any purchase order the merged company is booking, and they couldn't book prior to the merger or to the integration. So this is the foundation to how we can just separate revenue synergies from the business as usual. We should always go back and think about, okay, if we were two separate companies, can we achieve these sales? If the answer is yes, this is not a revenue synergy, it's a business as usual. If the answer is no, it means that this is the revenue synergies. And of course, this is the fundamental that we need to use through the whole offer, actually order process. From the day we identify a new prospect, we book the purchase order and we convert this purchase order to sales. During this whole process, we need to have and keep in mind, this is the synergy, actually, this is the synergy and how we can act with that. Here, I'm giving you actually some different scenario when actually where revenue synergies can happen. There is not any preferred scenario one or another. There are the different scenarios and conditions when we can tell that we are bringing some additional value for the company. For example, I'm a salesperson in company A, and I'm helping actually a salesperson in company B to go and sell their offer to my exclusive customers. In this case, the offer of the salesperson in company B is considered as a synergy. Another example is that, again, I'm a salesperson in company A, and with my colleague in company B, we are selling a combined offer A plus B to my exclusive customers. It means that company A exclusive customers. In this case, the only part that we can consider as a revenue synergy is company B's offer, because before, the company B salesperson didn't have access to my customer. The exception is that if we can prove without any doubt that my customer of company A wouldn't buy this combined offer, actually this offer A plus B, if we were not together, in this case, we can consider that the whole offer A plus B is considered as a synergy. So it is very easy to tell. It is very easy to put it on the paper and as a rule, but in practice, it's sometimes very tricky and very difficult to prove and to actually decide if there is a synergy or not. In the real life, we experienced a lot of conditions that we had a lot of argument of telling that, okay, if it's true or it is not true, if we could do it before or if we cannot do it like that. So at some point, we had to go through some decision process and defining if it's a synergy or not. So it's why actually it's key that the rules should be clear from the beginning, that all the companies should agree on that. And of course, we need to keep the track after the integration is happening, because revenue synergy is going beyond actually the year one. Normally it's going up to year 3. And we need to make sure that when the teams are merged together, when the information system, financial system, everything are merged, how we can still consider, track and measure revenue synergies. And his why is very important that from the beginning, we have to have very clear rules on that.
Thank you for that explanation. That's helpful. Let's talk a little bit about some of the common mistakes that people make when they're trying to manage those revenue synergies and synergies in general.
Sure. So actually, it was interesting, the information we have from the pool is that 83% of people, they mentioned that we are doing an acquisition to create to generate greater value. And it is something that everybody knows. And it's something that we all want to do. So why there is less than 20% of companies who succeed to actually generate this revenue synergies and what is mentioned in this the acquisition business plan? The first common mistake, again, this list is not exhaustive. It's just I'm giving some example based on what we lived, is that the first one is that we are putting the whole synergies in a bucket. We are talking about cost synergies and revenue synergies together. So what is happening is that cost synergies, normally, it is more easily, we can more easily deal with the cost synergy. I'm not telling that doing that is easy. I'm just saying that there is something that we can follow some specific process. We can identify more easily and more quickly the big blocks of cost savings. they are bigger, they are more visible, they are completely internal process, mainly internal process, and we can go through them, we can measure them, and we can communicate them. So it's something that is more or less actually usual to do it. So when we are putting cost and revenue synergies together, we are mainly focusing on cost synergies rather than revenue synergies. So this is the first mistake that we might do in an integration process. The second one is that we are saying that, okay, we have salesperson that they are very competent in what they are doing. Their aim is to go and sell the product, solutions, and offer to the customers. And as soon as we have a bigger portfolio, they just go, we train them, they just go and sell. And it's easy like that, which is not really the case. We will go to this a little bit later on, but it's not actually the revenue synergies is not really the direct result of an integration. It's not gonna happen. And of course, another thing is that we think, okay, everything is conducted by the sales target. The salespeople, they are really managed by target. And as soon as we are giving a additional sales target to the business leader, they can go and motivate the sales team to go and to do so, which is again not completely true, because it's not because a sales leader and manager has the extra target that the team are able or are willing to go and make it happen. So this is another point that we need to talk about that later on, actually.
Great. Let's dive into a bit more detail and talk about some of the roadblocks that organizations are going to encounter. So from an organizational perspective, maybe you can start there.
Yeah, so there are different parts actually of roadblocks. Again, you know, we really want to do it, and it's why actually we want to generate greater value. So it's why we are going to go to an integration and to an acquisition process. After that, we want to do everything right. At some points, we do some mistakes, but we need to really make sure that what prevents us to go and be successful in order to make sure how we can actually remove all these roadblocks and obstacles. The first one is that when we look at a normal acquisition, actually integration process, we have a team, dedicated team for the integration. They are a team which are very dedicated, which are very competent, and they need to do their best to make the integration a success. So there's a limited team with a lot of things to do, a lot on their bucket list, and they need to bring the better results in very limited time, with limited resources, and with all the internal and external pressure. So what they do is that they try actually to rely on the existing process and tools and the way of doing, actually the common way of doing, to do the best they can out of this, all the tasks that they have to do for the integration. For example, the cost synergy is one of those. But what we need to take into consideration is that the revenue synergies is not at all a normal and actually a routine process that we can take from one acquisition to another. Any acquisition actually is different. Any condition is different. And for any revenue synergies, we need to take into consideration that we need to have a new business case, a different action plan, and an adapted way to go and bring the revenue synergies. So the first one is that, well, okay, the first roadblock is not to take into consideration the need of teams and resources and the dedicated needs actually we have for revenue synergies. The second one are the absence of actually the lack of rules and process. Is that, for example, if from the beginning we don't know what is the revenue synergies, how we can make it happen, who is making it happen, and what are the rules we need to follow to tell that it is a synergy, it will be very difficult actually to make it happen. The third one, which is very, very, very important, is the lack of tools, methods, and process to actually to flag, track, and measure the synergies. We need to keep in mind is that if we cannot measure something, it doesn't exist. So if we don't have a tool, a dedicated tool to tell that to actually track and measure these revenue synergies, We cannot tell that we are delivering or not delivering synergies. And of course, if you want to bring a new value, a greater value to your customer, if we need to actually have a bigger offer, it's not always enough to tell that the offer of company A plus the offer of company B can go and create a greater value for the customer. Sometimes we need to create actually some bundles. Sometimes we need to create some bridge between these offers. And sometimes we need to put together actually the competencies, the technologies, and the know-how of these two companies together to create a new offer, solution, and services that we can bring to our customers. If we cannot having a new offer, how we can just go and create this new value for the customers? So there are some roadblocks that I'm putting on the organizational part of the actually revenue synergies.
Right. And so what about on the human, the so-called soft skills side of the equation?
Sure. So what we know is that in the world, actually, nothing is happening without human. And of course, in the integration and the revenue synergy is the same. And of course, no sales happens without a salesperson is ready, empowered, motivated to go and to sell the product. So if we are not training our salespeople, they cannot go and sell. It's not because they have access to a bigger portfolio that they can go and sell them. Also, we need to keep in mind is that from the actually beginning of the year, a salesperson, they have their own customers, their own target, and their own tasks to do. And normally, we are not giving not enough tasks to our salesperson. Normally, the targets are always very ambitious. And we ask them every year to bring more value for the companies and more sales. So we cannot tell that, okay, you know, they have 20% time, actually additional time, and they can go and sell this synergy. It's not going to happen. It's very difficult. Even if they want to do so, it's very difficult to have enough time to do it. For example, if I have a target of selling 100 before the end of the year, and I know that I need to create a revenue synergies, I need to help my colleagues from company B to go and meet my customers, to help them do the offer, to empower. So I need to spend, I don't know, 20% of my energy. And at the end of the year, this 20% that I spent is not bringing me anything additional. And it prevents me to deliver my target. I cannot really go and help my colleagues to do so. And sometimes even if I want to do so, because I want to bring a greater value for my customer, because my first priority is my customer satisfaction, is that sometimes if I'm not sure that the company B, they are well committed, their product is, they are the good quality, and they are not really actually how they are committing on the execution. If I'm not sure of that, I won't take any risk for my customers to go and offer them an offer and execution that I'm not really sure that they can manage it 100%. So it's another point is that if there is not any trust, if there is not any training, if there is not any collaboration, it would be very difficult to ask them and to go and sell. It's not because we are asked that they are going and do. We have a lot of soft skills behind that we need to work on, we need to trick to make it happen. And of course, I explained it a little bit before, but again, I have a target and I need to know if I'm spending 20% of my time, of my energy, but I don't sell on my target and I help somebody else selling on his or her target. If I don't see anything additional to my actual incentive, it would be very difficult to motivate me and to go so. I might do it once or twice, but it's not something that I will do systematically every day. So a clear incentive plan, including all these efforts that any salesperson or any single employee in each company is doing to deliver this value revenue synergy, actually, is very important to take into consideration.
Excellent, thank you. So now that we have a bit of clarity on some of the challenges, before we get to some of the solutions, I'd like to turn to the audience again and get your perspective on whether or not you use tools to measure your synergy and track your results. So we'll give you a minute or so to cast your view. Okay, just a few more seconds. And looking at the results, Pune, I think it's interesting that at the very least, people really are using a tool. So that's good. So there's a track.
Yeah. So it's a good news, of course. It means that we are able to measure revenue synergies, because if we don't measure it, it doesn't exist. So we have the tools, we have the necessary help to measure it. So it's a good news indeed.
Exactly. So let's go back to our presentation. So now let's talk a little bit about the golden rules for success.
Sure. So now that we talked a lot, actually maybe 20 minutes about all the roadblocks, all the problems, and why we are not making it happen, let's go to the positive side and telling that we can make it happen. Actually, it's what we did in the experience we had. Okay, we were a great team. You know, it's very important to mention that we worked a lot on that, and it did work. So what I'm sharing here again is not exhaustive, but it's based on our real life experience. So first of all, if we would like to create the revenue synergies, we need to look at it as a new distinct business. What does it mean? It means that the revenue synergies is a business, is a new sales, that either we are doing a new sales, actually a new product, new offer, new solution to our existing customers. Either we are offering actually the offers we have, but in a new geography, in a new segment, and something that we didn't do before. So for that, we need to make sure that we need to change the approach. We are not in a very structured process of the integration, and we are out of financial frame. Okay, you know, we need to work actually business, finance, financial people together, because if not, it's not gonna happen. But we really need to think of that like we need to create a new business. When we look at that, we will completely change the way we are doing. First of all, for example, if I do the comparison between cost synergies and revenue synergies, cost synergies is mainly related to internal functions. We are trying to optimize actually as much as we can our resources, our costs, to obtain the cost synergies. However, revenue synergies is external oriented. It should be customer oriented, because we would like to bring something more to our existing customers or go and acquire new customers. So in this case, we need to put customers in the center of our attention and telling that what customer needs or what they expect us to deliver to them from the results of putting together these two companies, our knowledge, our technologies, our know-how, our competencies. So first of all, we need to put customers in front actually in the center of our attention. And after that, come and ask the teams that we need to really work with the multidisciplinary teams in both companies, put them together and think, okay, now we need to think, is what we did, is that we told, okay, imagine that you have all the capacities we have, the people, competencies, know-how, technology, everything we have today. And we need to bring some added value to the customers. And imagine that you have unlimited resources. So come with a new business case and telling that if you had whatever you have today, and you have actually your customers' needs, and you have unlimited resources, what would you offer to your customers? What would be your business case? The teams went there, they worked together, and they came with a dedicated business case. Actually, we had synergy levers, and for each synergy lever, we had one business case. And after that, we thought, okay, you know, we are in a real life, so we don't have unlimited investment. Of course, we have some investment in the integration cost, but it's not unlimited. And we try actually to choose between everything we had, telling what is the best case scenario, how we can optimize between the investment we are putting and the result we are getting. So here we are really in an offer creation process or portfolio management process, telling that what are the offers we have that we can go to propose to the customers, and they are willing to pay additional value for that. So this is the first things we did.
Right. And then you mentioned there are some other rules as well.
Yeah. And now that we have actually our offer, our customers, our business case, and we are ready to go, okay, now how we can make it happen? So I talked a little bit about that before, about the clear rules of engagement, of telling that, okay, who can sell to whom, and how. For example, if we have a combined offer from company A and company B, and at some points we have some threshold and we need to get validation for this offer. So the customer cannot wait 1 year that we agree, you know, telling that, okay, this offer is good and this is we agree and this is the margin we know. So we had to give the sales team all the necessary rules, the clear rules, and telling that, okay, how we can make this happen, how we can collaborate together, who is deciding for what, who can sell what. So from the beginning, we created these rules to facilitate this revenue synergy sales. And of course, the rules can be what is the synergy, it can be what we can measure, who is responsible for what. It's really telling that, okay, how we can together, the both company, go and sell these new offers. So it was very important to define. And of course, the incentive plan. I talked about that. I will talk again about that, is that the incentive plan is very important. Because at some point, if we don't have any clear, tailored incentive plan at all level of the organization, it would be very difficult to go and sell those offers. If we have some conflictual interest between one entity and another, between one manager and actually the salesperson, it's not going to happen. So we had to align actually the incentive at all level of the organization, from C-level to the sales representative, and make sure that there is not any conflict of interest to go and sell these revenue synergies. This is something which is not ready. We need to work on that. It's very complicated, especially in the big companies with all the different matrix organization that you all know better than me. But there is something that we can make it happen if we are willing to align everybody together, and it's very important. And of course, okay, we have an offer, we have the rules, we have the incentive plan. Now we need to go and train and empower our sales team and marketing team and R&D team to go and work together. Because at some point, you know, if I'm working in some way that my colleague, who is in another business, in another industry, in another country, is working in another way, if we cannot really learn how to work together, if we are not if we don't see the interest of this collaboration and how it can bring all of us some additional value, it would be very difficult to make it happen. So we need really to work to know what are the pain points of the people, what prevent them to go, and how actually we can make it happen. So the cultural gaps, soft skill empowerment needs to be addressed from the beginning as well, and during the whole process. It is not we do one time and it's gone. We need really to follow it, to always measure it, and to make sure that all is good. And of course, the real-time performance tracking is very important. We cannot wait until the end of quarter, until the end of the year, and to see if we do the revenue synergies or not. Revenue synergies is the pipeline management, and the pipeline management is should be a real-time performance control. If not, it's not going to happen. Again, there is something which is very important, is that revenue synergies is key, this is strategic, it's very visible to market, because at the end of 3 years, we can go and communicate if we achieve our business plan objectives to the market. But for the people in the different businesses is one priority out of thousands that they have. So if we don't follow it, if we don't give the importance it has, it would be actually people at some point they lose following that. So tracking and following, it's very important to be followed as well.
Absolutely. You know, and I asked the audience about how satisfied they are overall with their process. It feels like they're tracking. And so I'm going to launch this poll. Talk about a little bit about how satisfied you are with your overall process. I'll give you a minute or so to answer. Okay, just a few more seconds, and then we'll move on to some details about things that worked for you, Pune. I'm going to close the poll now, just so people can see the results. You know, people are sort of somewhat satisfied and in the middle, so we don't have anyone who's very satisfied, so there's always room for improvement. So to get that improvement, let's talk a little bit about what has worked in your experience, Pune.
Sure. Actually, yeah, we can. I think that it's very difficult to tell that we are 100% satisfied about or very satisfied about the process because we can always do better. So I'm not very surprised by the answer. Normally, it's just maybe if they have 75%, we have some answers, but okay, 100% is difficult to obtain. So now, what worked for us? So it's a very actually heavy slide. I'm not going to read everything, and you don't need to read everything. I prefer that you listen to me rather than just reading my slide. It's a little bit selfish, but okay. So what is important is to have a connection and consistency between the different phases of the deal. We need to start thinking and working on revenue synergies from the due diligence part. I mean that when I told that, it means that from the beginning, we need to identify actually people in different parts of the business, from R&D, marketing, sales, and ask them according to the available information we have, actually, public information we have, what would be for them the synergy levers that we can put in place. So they work together, they will come with some assumptions, and we put these assumptions separately in our due diligence, actually in acquisition business plan. When the deal is signed, from the day one, during the preparation phase, we need to assign a dedicated revenue synergy teams. Revenue synergy team, actually, I highly recommend that we use people who come from business and different disciplines to work on that, because again, we are in a new business model, new offer creation. So we need to ask people who have experience in the business and to go and to be involved in this process. And we ask them, okay, now you need to go to the assumptions we had in business plan and to try to see, now according to the information you have now, do you validate the assumptions we have? If you don't validate, what you need to change. So we will take time to go through all these synergy levers, assumptions, and try actually to understand what we keep, what we need to change, and what we need to prioritize. And after that, of course, for any synergy lever, we need to elaborate a business case. And for that, we need to go and work with the people in different businesses, people on the field, the people who need to go and create these offers, the people who need to go and sell these offers, they need to be involved in the business case. There is not the role of a central team to go and impose these synergies to the teams. If we do so, it's not going to happen. So we need really to involve people. We need to make them work together, and we need to tell them, okay, now you need to come with a business case and tell what you can bring to us. And of course, we need to help them by defining and enrolling the rules, the process, and everything they need to go for. And from there, we can now start enrolling the business case. So it's what I explained before. We need to train people. We need to make sure that we need to follow up, and we need constantly to check the progress we do. Sometimes we are obliged actually to stop some levers because either market is not ready, either actually this lever is not progressing because of any reason. So sometimes we need to freeze or we need to stop a lever or some investment in order to make sure that we are answering to the market needs. So we should constantly check and adapt the way we are doing for different synergy levers. And of course, we always need to help, to encourage, and to see if we need to allocate some R&D investment or some investment, and we need to support these people. And this should go until the end of our commitment, which is normally 3 years. So it's very important that telling that the revenue synergies is not something we do one day, we do, I don't know, 100 days, we do 1 year. It's a continuous process, and we need to make sure that from the beginning, we start doing things. Sometimes we do it wrong. Sometimes we need to change. Sometimes we need completely to do in another way. And many times we learn by doing, and we can adapt and we can change. So the most important point is to be successful and not to keep whatever we decided from the beginning and telling that this is the rules that we need to go until the end. We just need to make sure how we can improve the process. So this is about what we did and actually what worked for us. And hopefully it will work for many other integrations as well.
Excellent. And, maybe we can give some clarity to our sort of checklist of key success factors. I think this is an easy to digest and take away, but perhaps you can go through these and give your comments.
Sure. Yeah, and I think here I'm not giving anything new to people. Any program that we would like to develop and deploy in any company, I think we need to follow these rules, and they are the key success factors. It's not only for revenue synergies. The first one is about the communication. We should over-communicate from the beginning. We should tell we actually give the real picture to people, telling what is happening, what we are asking for them, why these revenue synergies, what they can bring as additional to them. And we need actually to onboard them by the communication, by transparent and clear communication. And sometimes we should even over-communicate. Again, I already explained that, but we need to deal as a revenue synergy as a new potential business that we can come and actually have a bigger portfolio, so we have more offer and we can sell them to the customers, so and create a greater value. And we need actually to involve all the stakeholders of the company which have a role to play to achieve these revenue synergies. We shouldn't forget anybody from any function in the companies. It is the only way to make people work together and to commit on what is important actually to be happened. And of course, the key point is to obtain the C-level buy-in and commitment. Because if at the end of the day, the sales team, their managers, they are all willing to deliver something, if they are incentivized to do motivated, empowered, train, if their target is not aligned with the target that C-level, actually their business executive president has, it would be very difficult actually to make that happen. So we need to get the alignment from C-level until the bottom level of the organization. And it's very important. And of course, there is something that I didn't talk about that in the presentation, but which helped a lot. It's the workshop organization. We are organizing a few workshops, actually several workshops every year. And the idea was to tell that, okay, you know, the people from two companies, they don't know each other. Sometimes they have been competitors, so they don't really always like each other, and they don't know like the other one works. In many cases, they are in different places. They are not working day-to-day together. So we were going to main countries. We were putting all these people together. First of all, we were explaining, okay, where we are, where we want to go, and what we need to achieve. So first of all, actually communicating and giving a full picture of what we want to achieve to all these people. And after that, we will ask them to sit together, to work together for one day, and to come with a synergy portfolio and commit on that, telling that, okay, we work together. We put all customer bases together and the offers we have, and here how we can collaborate together to bring some revenue synergies. So it was a dedicated pipeline, and they would commit on that. And it's not something which has been imposed by anybody to them. They came with this plan, so they would actually commit on that. And of course, when you are doing a workshop, it's always normally on 2 days, 3 days, people are together, they have lunch together, they have dinner together, and we are working on this cultural gap as well, telling that how these people can better understand that together they can be stronger. And of course, I'm not going again through that on the tailored incentive plan, which is absolutely important. And again, I think that if there's something we shouldn't forget is that we need to do regular follow-up. Again, we have everybody in a company has thousands of priority. The priority number one is the priority of the people who are following their process. So you shouldn't be ashamed of following what you want to achieve, because if not, people, they just forget. It doesn't mean that they don't want to achieve. It's just they just go to other priorities. So it's very important to follow up, to see as soon as there is something going wrong, to have an action plan, and just make sure that this action plan is happening. And it's the way I hope we can have a successful process, actually.
Excellent. Thank you, Pune. Before we turn to our Q&A, just a quick word on Mergerware. Mergerware is a SaaS-based secure enterprise digital platform dedicated to creating the most efficient M&A deal management and execution process from discovery to due diligence to post-merger integration activities. For more information, please visit our website, mergerware.com, or you can email us at info@mergerware.com. So we do have a question from our audience, and the question is, how do we treat pull-through revenue as a synergy or not? Maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Yes. How do we treat pull-through revenue as a synergy or not?
Actually, it can be a synergy. It really depends actually on the situation we are in. But the pull-through revenues, sometimes actually, if we couldn't achieve that if we went together, it can be considered a synergy. But I need some, maybe one example, or I don't know, some more explanation to answer to you. The point is that in this kind of situation, always you tell it happened. It depends, but it can be a synergy. It really depend on the conditions we are in.
Right. And we'll provide contact details. And so if you want to have this conversation, the person who asked the question, we're happy to facilitate that.
Sure, and I'm happy to answer. If there is any specific actually condition, it would be easier for me to tell yes or no. I don't want to tell yes or no, knowing that normally it depends all the time. So yeah, I would be happy actually to go further on this discussion and better answer the question.
Excellent. Okay, and with our closing thought, which I won't read, but it talks about the importance of preparation. I want to thank you, Pune, for sharing your time and your expertise with us in our audience. And I want to thank our audience for taking time out of your day to join us for our webinar. We will again distribute this the recording as well as the slide deck within the next 48 hours. So information if you have further questions. And so to everyone, thank you very much. Stay safe and all the best. Goodbye for now.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Have a good day, everybody, and thanks for your time and thanks for the organization. And of course, I will be happy to answer your further questions if you have any later on.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.